Hey everybody, it's me Amanda with Once in a Wild and welcome back to another Once in a Wild Wednesday, where each and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we bring the zoo to you virtually throughout our social media and across our social media, and we're very happy to be here and we hope you've had a good week. We have been running a couple of reruns the last couple of weeks, so we do apologize for being absent, but I hope you forgive us and it's good to be back. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right. I hope everybody has had a great week or couple of weeks, and I hope you didn't miss us too much, but we were able to run those reruns, so I hope you enjoyed seeing those again. But my name is Amanda. This is Once in a Wild Wednesday, and Once in a Wild is our mobile zoo based right here in San Antonio, Texas. And every Wednesday, usually without fail, we bring the zoo to you virtually at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time across our social media. So whatever social media you prefer, we have it all. We have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have what else? LinkedIn, we have Twitch, we have all the things, YouTube, of course, and we even have TikTok. And I haven't been able to go live on TikTok yet with the live stream, but if I could get another device to be able to go live on there as well. I do use a separate device to go live on Instagram, so sometimes I go live over there as well, as I'm doing tonight. So we like to be a little bit widespread, that way everybody has something, whatever you enjoy, you can actually see once in a while as well, and that helps us out for you guys to be watching, of course. Now, don't forget that we are an interactive company and we enjoy your questions and comments about the animals that show up on the show, and about myself, I guess, if you want to ask me questions too. The reason we've been so busy is because we've been at the rodeo. The San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo invited us to come out and do some programming over there, and it was our first year to be at the rodeo, and we were very, very excited to be invited over there. Thank you to Clay for inviting us. And it went very, very well. It was super duper busy and we were very tired. So we went ahead and just ran reruns for those couple of weeks that we were at the rodeo. And that was a lot of fun though. So thank you to everybody that came out to visit us at the rodeo. We saw a lot of students and teachers and just people visiting the rodeo in general. We were over in the Freeman Coliseum. If you happen to be familiar with the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, and that was a privilege to be there. We hope to be there again next year, but it's been quite the month. February has been actually pretty busy. Normally in the animal outreach world, February is kind of a slow month, so we're very grateful to have that because it's kind of cold. And if you know anything about Texas, or you've been paying attention to the weather news, Texas can be basically cold one day and hot the next. So we literally had one day where it was like 85 degrees and the next day was like 35 degrees back to back. So you never know what to expect. So it's really hard to schedule outdoor programming and things like that. So a lot of times it ends up being a little bit of an off season. And when we enter the springtime again, we get a little bit more busy. So we're looking forward to spring break and to summer coming up. Before you know it, it's going to be back and it's going to be warm. And hopefully this is the last bit of cold weather that we get to experience. Cold weather is not my favorite. I know some people like cold weather, and I can't complain too much because Texas doesn't get too cold, but now I'm just rambling. But we are very grateful to have been invited to the rodeo is what I'm trying to say. So if you came out to see us or you paid attention to what we were doing on social media, thank you very much for your support. It was a lot of fun. And now we're back on to regular programming. So each and every Wednesday, we like to jump on here on social media and talk to you guys about what we do, maybe bring out some animals for you guys. We always do that too. And we teach you guys about the animals, and we try to just answer your questions or whatever you would like to pick my brain about. You can try to stump me with animal questions in general. Nikki's really good at doing that when she watches the show. She'll ask some off the wall questions, which I love because it forces me to learn as well. And today we actually just brought one animal to meet you guys, but he's a very cool one. And it's been a minute since he's been on the show, so I thought I would bring him along. And he's been doing really, really well. He's one of our newer animals, not the newest, but one of the newer animals. So hello, everybody joining us on Instagram as well. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being here in general as well. So if you want to know a little bit about us first and foremost, we are a mobile zoo. We are an animal outreach. We are all sorts of things, but essentially we can bring animals to classrooms, birthday parties, events in general, all sorts of corporate events. We went to the rodeo, like I said. We weren't actually doing rodeo type things. We were actually there with our animals, which are educational animals. So we have mammals, birds, reptiles, creepy crawlies, amphibians, all sorts of cool things. We brought a little bit of a variety to show everybody at the rodeo, and we just had our animals set out at our booth. kind of on tabletops so you guys could see some of the animals, and we kind of maybe interchange some of them day to day, or even bringing them out and then give some of the animals a break. Sandor the rabbit was probably the most popular animal we had there at the rodeo, and he is very, very good to basically have out the whole time. He doesn't really mind, but some animals need breaks. So depending on when you came by our tables, you might have seen different animals, and depending on the day as well. But that's what we do all over the San Antonio, Texas area. We can bring animals to anywhere, really, within reason, and we would basically customize that for you. So if you want to see certain animals that we have, you can pick the animals. We have different choices of different packages that you can select. And we even offer not just show and tells and learning about the animals, but you can opt to do a petting zoo. You can opt to do animal therapy. You can just have a fun meet and greet with the animals. You let me know what you have the idea in your brain to do for your particular event or outing or whatever you want to schedule, and we can make that happen for you to the best of our ability. And we're always growing and evolving as a company. So if you ever have any suggestions or requests, just let me know. I can always say, no, we can't do that, or yes, we can do that. So I always do my very best to help you out. And it's always a fun, positive, and educational experience for everybody involved. And it's not just for kids. A lot of people assume that our petting zoo, if you will, is only for children, but it's actually for all ages. We can bring animals to little kids, of course, but we can also bring animals to senior citizens and everybody in between. So it's a lot of fun for everybody who doesn't like animals after all, and everybody can benefit from a little bit of fun animal time or education about creatures that live on this planet. Now, if you do want to help us out, the best way to do so is by booking your own animal encounter. If you happen to be in our neck of the woods, you can book your animal encounter right here in person, and we can bring the zoo to you at a certain date that you select, and we'll schedule that for you and we'll make it happen. Or if you happen to live outside of our vicinity, you can schedule your own virtual animal encounter. And I know that's kind of yesterday's news, so to speak, but we can still do virtual animal encounters. In fact, I'm doing a couple of them for a school out of state coming up next week. We're doing a specific rodent class, actually, and we're going to learn all about rodents. The rodents that we have are our guinea pigs, and that's who we're going to feature on that rodent class. And I can definitely do specific animal classes like that, or we can have a variety, or I can surprise you with a variety of animals. You can pick them, whatever you would like. If it's a classroom setting, especially, you can actually select animals that make sense to your curriculum, or you can let me just pick the animals that make sense. That is up to you, but those are still pretty cool and very popular. We conduct those via Zoom, so it's very accessible to anybody as long as you have the ability to jump on a Zoom, which all of us know how to do Zoom now. That's hard to say. All of us know how to do Zoom now. Say that 5 times fast. But since we're all very familiar with that application, we can certainly jump on a Zoom with you, and it's super easy. It looks very similar to this, only you won't see some of the overlays and things. You're just going to see the purple backdrop, and I'll talk to you about the animals, and then it's very interactive. You can ask me questions at the end or during the event, depending on how many people you have in the class or party or whatever you would like to do. I'm actually doing another one coming up for Eva's Heroes as well. So they're still pretty popular. Some people are still wanting to social distance, or you just happen to not live in our area, right? And that is definitely an option for you as well. So it's so good to see some of you watching out there on Instagram. I'll try to keep track if there are any questions over there, but it's harder to see on Instagram the little question, text, than it is to see your comments and questions on the rest of the platform. So if you leave a comment or question on the rest of the platforms, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, any of those, I can actually see your comments. Joelle is saying hi with a smiley face, super cute. So I can actually highlight some of those. We always keep it family friendly on this show, or I will not address them. I will just ignore you if you are not family friendly. As you might imagine, this is a family channel. We are not just for children, but children do watch the show. So we want to make sure that it is appropriate for children. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, feel free to leave me a comment or question, animal emojis, whatever you would like to leave me. It's very encouraging to see you guys and see that you're out there. But if you're not, that's okay. You can always watch the show afterwards. We do, of course, they basically automatically upload to YouTube, especially, and Facebook and Instagram that will save as well. And you can watch them again, or if you missed part of it, you can watch the first part that you missed or the second part or whatever. And we appreciate you guys sharing our videos, sharing our content. Go over to TikTok and follow us if you happen to be on TikTok. TikTok, we are doing pretty well. We're over 1,000 now, and I can actually go live over there now if I want to, and I'm sure I will at some point soon. But Instagram ends up being a little more popular with going live, so that's why I do that. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. This is a live show, so if I stutter over my words or forget to say something, please forgive me. If you do want to help us out, like I mentioned before, I can't forget this. Buying your own animal encounter or scheduling your own animal encounter that's custom to you, whether it be Zoom, in person, whatever, that's the best way to help us out because that keeps us going, of course, and you get something in return. You can also opt to purchase some of our merch over at onceinawild.com. We're working on getting more merch very soon. As always, it's kind of an evolving thing too. But another way that you can help us out is simply by donating to our little zoo. So you can go to onceinawild.com/donate or go to onceinawild.com and scroll to the bottom where it says donate, and that will give you all your options. We've got something for everybody. You've got Venmo, Cash App, we've got PayPal, we've also got our Amazon wish list with items that are pre-selected for our animals, and we even have a Patreon where you can specifically basically sponsor some of your favorite animals or all of our animals or whatever you would like to do. So there are many options for you to donate if you would like to help us stay in business and do what we do, which is educating kids of all ages and adults of all ages about animals, about wildlife, about conservation, about making the world a better place. And of course, that helps to feed our animals and take care of them and help to pay our staff and everything else. We do have a few staff that helps us as well. Thank goodness. I'm not doing everything on my own anymore. But this is a one-woman show. So please bear with me as I do the live stream. I am typically all alone, all by myself, except for the animals attending, doing the show. So just have patience as always. And you guys are a wonderful, wonderful audience. We love our friends, family, and followers that watch our live streams and support us in general. So thank you very much. But if you would like to donate, that's the best way to do that. onceinawild.com/donate. Almost every zoo in existence relies on public donations and, of course, purchases of their services in general, whether that be ticket prices at a zoo, extracurricular things like behind the scenes tours, or what we do, which are events. So we would basically schedule an event with you. Oh, I think I froze on some of my platform. Oh, I'm back. We would schedule your event with you, whichever date you would like. And that's how that goes. And you would basically, every single event is going to be a different price for everybody. So depending on what you're needing, and if you're interested in that, visit onceinawild.com, and our number is there. That's the best way to get a hold of me. But you can also reach out and request a quote, or you can always message us on any of our social media platforms, and we will get right back to you as soon as we can. But if you visit onceinawild.com, our contact number is there, and that's the best way to get a hold of me as soon as I can get back to you. So that's the fastest way because it's very, very direct. I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, or you've never been here before, please let me know if you need anything at all or you have any questions, and I'll do my very best to address you. So here on the Once in a Wild Wednesday show, the live stream, we typically do bring animals, of course, on the animal show. Will there be dinosaurs on the dinosaur tour? And sometimes we even have special guests here on our live stream too. We don't have any special guests today, but that will be happening again very, very soon. I do miss having our guests. If you want to check out some of those special guests that we had in the past, there are several videos on YouTube and Facebook that you can rewatch. And Clay was one of them. Clay is actually the person that helped us out to get the rodeo gig, which is pretty cool. But Clay also has his own YouTube channel, which is The Wild Side with Clay. So please check that out as well. And if you haven't already followed us on YouTube, please do that because we're looking for more YouTube subscribers. Subscribe to YouTube. Don't follow, subscribe. But you can also follow the rest of them. So you guys, so I only brought one animal onto the live stream today. You probably have already heard him talking next to me. He's over here. And it happens to be Rango, our Eurasian Eagle Owl. He is the only owl we have here at Once in a While, but he is a big owl. So would you guys like to meet him? I'm sure you would. So on most of our social media, I'm going to just pause really quick while I step literally 2 steps over there and get him out of his enclosure, temporary enclosure crate, and I will bring him right back. For you guys on Instagram, you're probably going to see me disappear and then come right back, but I promise it's going to be worth it, and we'll be back in a flash, and I'm sure you can guess who it is because I already told you if you didn't see the description already with the cute owl emoji. So I'll be right back, you guys. Please don't go anywhere. Okay, you guys, we are back again. And I have a friend with me, as you can see. Thank you so much for your patience. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to step him up and get him out. We have to be a little bit delicate with birds, even though he's a big bird. We have to make sure we're doing everything very, very safe. And of course, safety is first when it comes to our animal encounters and handling our animals and things. So this is Rango. You heard him talking earlier, and I'm sure he'll keep talking. He is a Eurasian Eagle Owl. So this is actually one of the heaviest species of owl in the entire world. But he's actually a male. So if he were a female, he would be twice as big as what he is. And that actually goes for all the birds of prey and all the owls, especially, right? So all the owls, the females are twice as big as the males. Now, since he's one of the largest species in the world, can you imagine a Eurasian eagle owl twice as big as him? Wow, that would be amazing. And the females are pretty large. And I'll tell you why. So the best theory that we have regarding why the female raptors in general, and that means eagles, that means hawks, owls, kestrels, kites, all those guys, all those birds of prey, the raptors, with talons and everything, right? Those guys, the females are bigger because when they are in their breeding season, the female typically has nesting duty. That means that she will almost exclusively sit on the eggs, keep the eggs warm with her big body, and take care of the young, kind of feed them by her mouth and everything. And then daddy raptor, whether it be an owl or anything else, he's a little smaller, actually a lot smaller, and more athletic because it is his job during the breeding season to fly away and catch lots of yummy animals for his family to eat. And so he ends up being a little bit more nimble, athletic, and he will hunt for the entire family. Now, when it comes to being a Eurasian eagle owl, they can have quite a few babies, but typically they have about 3 babies or less. Typically, only 2 or 3 at maximum will survive, but sometimes they can have up to 5 or maybe even more babies, but that would be extremely rare. Other owls, like barn owls, the ones that are usually white or light brown with a heart-shaped face, very pretty. Barn owl, you've probably seen them before, at least in a picture. Barn owls exist all over the world except for Antarctica. And these guys actually live in Europe, Asia, and North Africa. So they're not worldwide like a barn owl, but barn owls have a lot of babies in comparison to other owls. They can have several babies. I forget how many exactly because it's been a minute since I did a barn owl presentation, but I believe it's like 5, 6, maybe up to 9. I think 9 is coming back into my memory. I'm an old lady now, so I'm trying to remember my information from back in the day, but I'm pretty sure that it's up to 9. So that is a lot of babies for a raptor to have. So these guys have a smaller clutch or grouping of babies, but that is why mom is often bigger, or to be able to sit on the eggs, keep them warm, and kind of just stay in the nest. And that also helps to protect the eggs as well. Helps to protect the babies when they hatch because she's so big. She's a lot tougher, bigger, more intimidating, and she can just take care of all of that on the nest while dad will take off and hunt for the entire family, which is a lot of work. He usually does hunt every single night in this case because they're nocturnal. Not every owl is nocturnal, by the way, but most of them are. So since he is a nocturnal species, he's going to be hunting in the night. And when they have families, they have a lot of hunting to do and a lot of mouths to feed. These guys are not like a parrot, by the way, where they would actually regurgitate food. Daddy owl would often hunt animals for mom. Mom would hand off the food to the babies. Sometimes daddy would feed the babies too, but they're feeding their babies like pieces of meat, not like regurgitated food like a parrot would do or other birds. Fun fact. So it's a little bit less gross, but still gross because it's raw meat and animals, sometimes, well, usually dead animals, but sometimes half alive, so they can learn how to hunt on things. But they're really great parents. They are seasonally monogamous, and they typically will find each other each season and mate again and have babies with the same mate, but it doesn't always happen. So they're not truly a monogamous, like mate for life kind of bird. They're more of a seasonal monogamous bird, if that makes sense. So if something happens to their mate over the non-breeding season time, they will actually just go ahead and find another mate. So the hooting that you heard him doing earlier is usually what a male owl will do, a Eurasian eagle owl specifically, and also great horned owls and other horned owls. They have a similar hooting sound that they do. And that is typically going to be at least started by the male in order to find a mate. So he's been really calling for the ladies. However, he doesn't understand that his species doesn't actually exist here in Texas or anywhere in the United States or the Americas at all. They only live in Europe, Asia, and Africa. So unfortunately, he's not going to find a girlfriend out there, but he may call a rogue great horned owl, which is their close cousin that is about half their size, and a female great horned owl would be about his size. A male great horned owl would be about half his size. I hope this is making sense. Now, owls are amazing nighttime hunters, and they use mostly, yes, they use two different, oh my gosh, he threw me off because he's so cute hooting. That was a really cute hoot. Cute hoot. I didn't realize that rhymed until now. So they will use two senses. They're both their main senses are their vision and their hearing, and their hearing ends up being a little bit better than their vision. Owls have very good vision, as you might imagine. He's got beautiful, big orange eyes, and owls have such large eyes in their sockets that they cannot move their eyes at all. So oftentimes you'll see an owl moving their head around a lot, and that is in order to look around. They cannot turn their eyes, roll their eyes, cross their eyes, look up or down without moving their head like we can. So their eyes are fixed in one position, like a binocular. And they're so large that if you do an ear exam on him and you look into his ear with a little flashlight or a tool, like a doctor's, I forget what that's called. Let me know. When you look into the ear, you can actually see the back of the eye because they're so big. So those eyes are very sensitive and very, very good at seeing at night, especially. As a nocturnal species, he has excellent night vision. His color vision is not the best for a raptor, but it's still decent. And but it's not as good as an eagle or like a hawk or a daytime raptor. That makes a lot of sense to me. He's more designed to see in low light situations, especially in the moon light and starlight. That would be ideal for him to hunt. And he can actually see so far away in such little light. He can see 100 yards away and very, very sharply when he's looking 100 yards away. So he can actually, if he could read the fine print on a penny 100 yards away from him in low light like that. He would only need about 1 or 2 candles to see that far, and especially the moon and the stars. I don't know what he's looking at, but if he decides to try to fly away, do not worry, he will be okay. I will make sure that he comes right back and finishes his appearance. But we work owls on what we call equipment. He is wearing 2 anklets around his legs, which are made of leather, and they're very soft leather. And they actually he gets to take all of this off. I take it off of him when he's done working. But when he's working, this keeps him with me instead of wearing like a harness or a collar that a dog or cat would wear, or other animals, right? Like mammals. They don't really wear harnesses very well. They have such strong legs because that is their main way to hunt with their leg power, that they can actually wear anklets around their ankles and little leather straps called jesses, which are also attached to a leash, which in this case is actually a blue leash. You can see it right there. Hopefully he won't try to do that, but it is safe enough for him to try to fly off and not get anywhere and come right back to my glove. So if that happens, we might have a lot of gust of wind from his crazy wings, but he will be okay. I just want to warn you guys ahead of time. If that happens, it's pretty normal for a bird of prey to want to maybe try that, test that, or try to go land somewhere and then forget, oh, I'm actually attached. So anyway, so back to his senses. So remember, his eyes are amazing. His eyes don't move. They're so big. They let in a lot of light. Now, it does not hurt them to actually be out during the light in the daytime. He's often out and awake during the day in his enclosure outside. And he does a lot of daytime programs, and he's around some lights right now. It doesn't really bother their eyes, doesn't hurt them, because their pupils will adjust. So their pupils get much bigger when they need to let in more light, and they will, of course, they will automatically adjust to be smaller to be able to let in less light to keep him comfortable. So he's okay being out during the light in the daytime. A lot of people do ask me that as well. Their eyes are amazing, but one trade-off of having such big, sensitive eyes is, of course, they can't move them. So they're a little bit limited there for sure. Oh, hello, Samantha. You learned so much from us. Thank you very much. He is spectacular. Thank you very much. Thank you for the compliment. And you said so great. Thank you. If you guys want to leave me some more comments and compliments over on Instagram, I'll do my best to read them. It's a little bit farther away. And if you're over here on YouTube and Facebook, etc., I can highlight your comments and questions, just like Joyelle is saying, yes, please. That must have been when I asked if you wanted to see the animal. So I mean, these guys are one of my favorite animals ever to talk about. I often will get off track because I'm distracted about distracted on how much I love them and looking at them. But owls also have amazing hearing. They don't just have amazing vision at night, they have amazing hearing at night or day. So their ears are so sensitive, they can also hear 100 yards away. So not only can they see 100 yards away and see sharply in low light, they can also hear 100 yards away and hear very, very well. So they are well designed to hunt things like rodents, rabbits, animals that hide underground, animals that have faint heartbeats, animals that are generally quiet. And he can pick up their movement, their heartbeat, if they're digging, things like that, about 100 yards away. And especially if it's closer than that, of course, he can definitely hear that as well, very, very well. And he is hunting at night, right? So hearing ends up being probably his most important sense. Now, they still do need their vision too. Blind owls don't do well in the wild, but they use their hearing a little bit more so than their vision. So even if it's like a very, very dark night, lots of clouds, they can still hunt pretty well. So their ears are very, very interesting though, because they are actually crooked. So his ears are placed in a weird spot on his head. He's actually got one ear up high and one ear down low. And that actually helps him to triangulate sound. So if an owl bobs their head around, which you might see him doing a little bit, that indicates that he is not dancing. He is actually listening. He is trying to figure out where certain noises are coming from. So sometimes if I'm walking up to see him, or if he hears a strange noise, he will bob his head around to try to figure out what that noise is and where it's coming from. And that will help them in the wild, of course, to be able to hunt and find prey that's moving around. And that can help him to actually locate the prey, even if it's underground or he can't see it very well or he can't see it at all. And together with those amazing eyes and amazing ears, he hunts very, very well, even in the dark of night. Isn't that amazing? Now, their ears are not these things on top of his head. Those are more like eyebrows. They're actually called ear tufts, but they are not ears at all. They're just feathers. So they can lower, raise, and everything else to give him expression. So they're kind of like the eyebrows of the owl, and they give them a little bit of communication as well. Another reason that a horned owl with the ear tufts, which is where they get their name horned owl, it's not horns, it's not ears, just feathers controlled by a mechanism to be able to lower and raise if they want to. But it also, in theory, can give them a little bit more camouflage. Now, he is already very well camouflaged. This type of owl wouldn't even need to go into like a house per se, or into a hollow tree. He would be very well camouflaged just sitting in the tree just like this. And if he shut his eyes, you wouldn't even see him at all. He's very, very well camouflaged. Looks just like a natural pattern in the trees, right? All the shadows, all the branches. But in theory, those ear tufts on top of his head can actually give him a little bit more of a broken silhouette, if you will, and a more natural looking kind of shape to him. So he can blend in even better than he would have otherwise without the ear tufts. Yeah, aren't they cool? So that is one of my favorite things about this species, is they are one of the horned owls. They are related to the great horned owl, of course, and both the Eurasian eagle owl, which is what he is, and the great horned owl and some others, they have those ear tufts for expression, a little bit of camouflage, and just looking really awesome, right? Nikki is here. Hi, Nikki. She says, why do I see so many owls in movies? They're either scary or smart. So that's the fun fact about owls. So owls are very, very good at what they do. They're extremely instinctive, very, very good at their senses that they have, very well adapted and evolved to hunt at night. But they are not a smart animal. And please don't tell him I told you that in owl language. I don't think he's insulted, although he might try to leave now. Watch, he's gonna leave now. He's like, bye. Owls are not problem-solving animals. They don't really need to be like that because they're very simplistic in what they do on a nightly basis. So all day long, they're gonna be sleeping and hanging out. During the breeding season, they will try to find mates and breed, of course. And yeah, that's who. You're adorable. They talk a little bit. What else? When they want to eat, they'll fly down and try to catch something. They'll try to locate it with their vision and hearing and go get it and go right back up to their tree or wherever's safe for them to eat it. Sometimes they'll catch a prey item and eat them on the ground if it's a little bit safer and more comfortable for them to do that. But whatever the case may be, they kind of are just reactive to whatever they need. If they need to go to the bathroom, they go to the bathroom. If they need to eat, they try to eat. If they need to mate, they try to mate. If they're ready to have babies, they do that, and everything in between. They're not really looking for a whole lot to do. although it's good to give animals things to do in general, his training, in my opinion, is probably the most enrichment that he could ever need. But we also try to give him some fun things to do and see on a daily basis. He lives outside, so he gets to see birds flying and he gets to hear things and experience the outdoors, and just be himself, right? Fly around. He is a fully flighted owl. He is not a rehab injured owl. He's actually a hand raised Eurasian Eagle Owl intended for education his whole life. He was actually kept at another facility up until November when we picked him up. And we've had him ever since, and we plan to have him the rest of his life. But he's not an injured rehab animal, so he can fly. He does fly around and seems to enjoy that. He certainly enjoys his food and snacks, right? But owls are pretty simple animals. They're not like monkeys. They're not like parrots. They're not like ravens and crows where they're needing something to do at all times. They don't even need that much of attention. So during the off season when they're not breeding, these guys are solitary. They live all by themselves and hang out alone. And so they're a very kind of easy animal to keep happy. I love them for that. So owls are not really the smartest, but the wise old owl theory probably comes from a couple of different things. Number one, they are a pretty long-lived species. So the great horned owl and the Eurasian eagle owl and some others too that are larger, those guys can live into their 60s. And in the wild, it wouldn't be as much, but in human care, they could live into their 60s. So in the wild, they could be like 30 or 40 years old. That would be super old in the wild. But it can happen. So that's probably where they got the rumor for being wise, because they just keep on living and living and living. And the more an animal lives, I guess we assume as a human species that they're using their brains to survive. But it's really just because of their adaptations, their instincts. They're very well evolved to live in different weather. These guys actually do very, very well in cold or hot weather and everything in between, because they have seasons where they're from. Now, they don't really prefer hot weather. They tend to overheat if they don't have enough water or breeze, maybe a fan in human care, right? In a zoo or something like that. We do use fans on them sometimes to keep them cooler because they're spoiled, but that helps them out to stay cooler. But these guys are designed to live in like Russia, North Europe, things like that, where it gets very, very cold, very snowy. These guys are covered in feathers from toe to eyelid. So from head to toe, they are completely covered in feathers, except for their talons and their beak, right? These guys have feathers on their eyelids so they can shut their eyes and stay very warm. They even have feathers, like I said, on their feet as well. So they can live and adapt to living a long time, right? So I think that's where that comes from. Also, another theory that I have, and I've heard several people say this, is that owls' eyes, rather, are so big they look like they're wearing glasses. And we often associate wearing glasses with being very intelligent or being well read or studious or nerdy, right? So which is kind of silly, but that's just what we associate in cartoons and things. So a lot of people assume that because they have big, beautiful eyes, they look like they're wearing spectacles, they look smart. So that's the way it is. Wise old owl is kind of silly. Old, yes. Wise, probably not. But wonderful nonetheless. I actually like them because of that a little bit more. They're much easier to take care of. They don't need a whole lot to stay busy. They don't need a lot of toys to play with. Just a little bit of attention here and there. We do weigh him every day. He's trained for that. He's trained to sit on glove and hang out and get his equipment put on and taken off. He's trained to eat from our hands and hang out with us. And that's really most of what he needs to do. We might work on some more behaviors, maybe flights from A to B's, but he's not super motivated because these guys don't really need to fly around and do acrobatics and entertain themselves in the wild. They're more of a sit still until I need to move kind of animal. So they remind me of kind of like a lazy cat. That's what they kind of behave like. If you're used to like a kind of a lazy house cat that sits on a couch, they're kind of like that. Yeah, most of Russia is for sure ice. So they live all over Europe, Asia, a little bit of North Africa, but not very much Africa. So they're used to snow, ice, all sorts of different seasons for sure. Oh, thank you. You say, hi, cool to see an owl live. Yes, he is right here on the live stream. He is alive. A lot of people do ask me if he's real when we take him out in public. He is 100% real. He's not a robot. He is a real live owl. And I'm so glad that you guys are joining us. If you're just joining us, this is Rango. He's our Eurasian Eagle Owl. My name is Amanda, and this is Once on a Wild Wednesday. And we just brought the one animal today. I thought it would be fun to bring the owl back onto the channel and talk all about him and talk about what we've been up to. We have been at the rodeo last couple of weeks, so we've been running reruns on the live stream, and we're happy to be back in action again. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Here's a good question from Nikki again. Why can't owls digest bones and hair? I don't know why. I forget why, but they cannot. They actually will eat either the whole animal or they'll bite off chunks of an animal depending on what they're hunting. Another fun fact about these guys is they do weigh only about 4 pounds as a male, and they may weigh around 8 pounds as a female, up to 9 pounds maximum, I've been told, but I've never seen a 9 pound female Eurasian eagle owl. Usually they're around 7 or 8 pounds. But I guess when they have babies in the tummy, they might be a little bit heavier when they're gravid. That's the word for that. But the males are typically smaller and they look a lot bigger than they weigh. However, it gets a little heavy after a while sitting on my hand. But anyway, these guys weigh about 4 pounds as a male, but they can lift twice their body weight. So he could hunt something 8 pounds and take it away with him, or he could hunt something on the ground even bigger than that, like a small deer or a small pig, and just hunt it. It passes away, right? And he can actually eat it on the ground and just stay on the ground and eat as much as he can and then fly away when he's done. He probably wouldn't finish that meal, and then another animal could actually come and get the leftovers, which is a great purpose for these guys. These guys will leave food for other animals that might scavenge, especially during the winter, because these guys don't hibernate. They're going to hunt year round and leave prey or kills for other animals to come and eat and scavenge off of, and that helps other animals to survive. Now, you were asking, why doesn't he digest the hair, feathers, or bones? I don't know why, but what they do is they will eat, and then the next day, typically, their first kind of level or section of digestion will separate the hair, the bones, feathers, whatever it may be, from the rest of the digestible meat, and they will spit out the non-digestible items, which can be hair, feathers, and bones, things like that, nails, and that will come out as kind of like a little hairball, which we call a cast, or we call a pellet. A lot of people call them owl pellets. Now, all birds of prey actually do give us a pellet or produce a pellet. Not really for us, right? But I like to collect them and see what kind of bones and things are in them. That's fun. That's a fun way to learn what owls can eat and things like that. It's getting awfully heavy already. Oh my gosh. I'm out of shape, you guys, or I'm just overworked. Who? Me. That's me. You're so cute. Oh my goodness. Cute. Ooh. But they will do that about every single day. It's important for them to do that. And then they digest the rest of the meat. So that is pretty cool. But all raptors do that. Even vultures do that too. Even though vultures are not true raptors, they will eat the animals, right, that they're eating, and then spit up the hair, bones, nails, feathers. Here we go. This is probably right. I'm sure it is. Hi, Christina. Christina's one of our zookeepers here at Once in a While. She takes care of our animals and helps us with animal programs. There we go. So apparently there's not enough stomach acid to digest the other stuff. That's a great way to put it in layman's terms. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm sure you are. I trust you. But for vultures, that confuses me too, because vultures have really strong stomach acid and they still cast. So I don't know, but I love learning. So we will learn a little bit more about that soon. How about that? And for sure, this is true as well. For birds of all kinds, they have less internal organs and they have a far more streamlined digestive system as well. So it says a complicated digestive system might make the owl weigh more. Yes. So birds in general that fly weigh far less than birds that don't fly, like ostrich, emus, penguins, things like that. This bird only weighs about 4 pounds, right? And he looks like he weighs a lot more, but he doesn't have all the internal organs that a mammal of his size would have. He doesn't have a true bladder. So when he's got to go, he's got to go. Most birds just let it go as soon as they have to pee or poo, right? And that helps them to be lightweight as well, to just let that go. They also don't have like an appendix or anything they don't need. They have just the minimum organs that they need. And their bones are also lighter weight as well. They're called pneumatic. So bones of a bird that fly are not truly hollow. They're called pneumatic, which is semi-hollow. So it's kind of like a straw with a structure in it that looks like a sponge or some sort of lines through or structure through the bone, if that makes sense. That way it supports the bones, but the bones are like full of spongy holes to make them nice and light. And that makes them a little bit more brittle and breakable as well. So they have to be very careful. Birds are a lot more fragile because of that. But that helps them to be able to fly, take off, and be able to lift their bodies up into the air. And birds that do fly need a very proportioned wingspan to get up off the ground, right? So this guy has about a 5.5-foot wingspan, which is pretty large. And the females will have up to a 6.5-foot wingspan because they are even bigger. But yeah, but since they are kind of a bigger bird of prey, they're not going to do a whole lot of acrobatic flying. They're not vultures either, and vultures can actually soar above almost any other bird. The vulture family, condors, things like that, they're very good at soaring because they ride thermal waves, which are the heat waves that rise off the earth and things like that. But that's a great uh, point to make, is that birds actually weigh a lot less because they have less internal organs, lighter bones than us. They have feathers instead of hair as well. So if you take all his feathers off of his body, which we won't do, but if you take all the feathers of an owl and you set them next to the same amount of hair, the hair will actually weigh a lot more than feathers. And feathers, of course, create lift as well when he's flapping his wings and spreading his tail and everything else, and that will help him lift off the ground. And a lot of more sciencey things happen and to help him to physically have physics to lift off the ground. It's pretty complicated. I'm not a physicist, so please don't judge me there. But these guys are so well adapted to getting up off the ground because they're lightweight. They're just amazing animals. Yeah, wow, indeed. Oh, yes. Nikki says, I've seen pictures of owls having super long legs. Yes, they do. They're just covered by their feathers. Is this real or just editing? It is real. I don't want to bother him too much to show you. But usually owls will actually kind of hunch their legs down. So imagine this is an owl leg. My arm is an owl leg. You guys can't see over on Instagram. But imagine this is his leg. He's basically sitting like this with his leg bent and holding on to me, in this case, or a branch. And then when he wants to stick his legs straight out, he can extend his legs. So they're actually pretty long. But when he sits, this is comfortable for him to kind of bend his leg like that, both his legs. Does that make sense? Also, yes, there are a lot of feathers surrounding his body in general. He is not very big underneath all these fluffy feathers. Those legs kind of hide underneath there, but also he is bending them, so they look a lot shorter right now. And an owl's most comfortable way to hold their leg is actually gripping. So they hold their foot and their leg bent and gripping their foot in order to stay put in a tree branch or a glove, right? So he can go to sleep and be like this, and he has to actually think about letting go. So his relaxed state is gripping. Our relaxed state is not gripping, right? So we're kind of the opposite. So my relaxed hand looks like this. You guys can both see. His relaxed foot would be like this, gripping. So he has to kind of let go and kind of flex his foot to let go. That's a great question. Does he have ears or just feathers there? We answered that a little bit ago, so you might have missed that. But these little feathers on top of his head are just feathers. They are more like eyebrows. They can actually function to lift and lower at his leisure in order to express himself. They are not his ears at all. His ears are underneath the feathers on the sides of his head, and one ear is actually up high and one ear is placed down low, and that helps him to triangulate sound. And another thing I forgot to mention about the owl specifically is going to be their flat face. So owls have a very, very flat face, and some owls even have a concave kind of face as well. It's like a satellite dish. A barn owl is a great example of that. Their feathers are placed around the eyes in a heart shape, but it creates like almost like a satellite dish to function as another ear on the front of their head. So an owl has a flat face to be able to funnel sound. Isn't that cool? But that is where their ears are. So they don't have a long snout or rostral positioning like maybe like an eagle or a hawk would have, because those guys are a lot more visual. They still hear really well as well, but they're hunting in a different way. They're using more of their eyes. Owls use their eyes and their ears to hunt. So having a flat face helps them to funnel in noise to their face and to their ears. That is super cool. But yeah, it is so interesting to learn all these facts about owls, isn't it? So owls are one of those animals that I find so cool because a lot of people know what they are, of course. Everybody knows what an owl looks like or knows what an owl is. You may not know your species of owls, but you recognize that he's an owl just because you've seen owls before. But a lot of people learn something new every time we talk about them because they weren't aware. Now, did you know that owls can turn their head pretty far? They can't turn their head round and round and round. That would hurt him. He can turn his head about 270 degrees out of 360 degrees. So that is over halfway, and that's pretty impressive. And again, it's because they cannot move their eyes in socket. He can't turn, roll, cross, look up and down with his eyes without moving his head at all. That's going to help him to look around, having that flexible neck. But if you think about it, almost every single bird species out there has a super flexible neck too. In fact, he's not the most flexible. I would probably say the swan, the flamingo, those guys are the most flexible because they have extremely long necks. But even if you look at a sparrow or your parrot at home, if you have a parrot, those guys can turn their heads backwards too. And that helps them to take care of their feathers and preen their feathers. And that also helps them to kind of look around too. But owls especially need that movement to be able to look around because other birds can move, roll, cross, move their eyes in socket and not have to have them fixed in place, right? And yes, we were just talking about this. So let's keep talking about it. How can they rotate their heads without snapping their necks? So they have a very long neck. Believe it or not, they have double the neck bones that we have. So we have 7, they have 14, and some other birds actually have even longer necks than that, right? Like we just mentioned. But his neck is covered in feathers, fluffy feathers. But underneath that, if you look up an owl skeleton, their neck is actually pretty long and flexible for their size. So they can easily just kind of rotate their head. It's just hidden under all the feathers, so it looks like a spinning maneuver, but it's really not. It's just a flexible one. No sound? Are you not hearing me? I'm very sorry. I'm pretty sure others can hear me on Instagram. If you can hear me on Instagram, go ahead and give me a comment and let me know. How much can he lift during flight? Great question, Christina. He can lift about twice his body weight. That is what's known. Now, we don't know if they can lift even more, but typically we have observed them lifting about twice their body weight in the wild. And I don't know if that's been measured in human care with this species specifically or other species. That's something to look up. But it's estimated that, say, an 8-pound female can actually lift twice her body weight. So she could potentially hunt and carry away maybe a baby pig or something like that, or a very large bird that's bigger than her, certainly. They're actually known to hunt things like muntjac and fanged deer and other type of little deer that live in Asia and other animals like that. They're very impressive hunters. And they could even hunt an animal with their talons and everything. Once they find their prey, they locate it, they fly silently towards the prey. They could even do away with their prey and just leave it on the ground and eat it that way as well. They're quite capable hunters, as I'm sure you know. Now, how do they hunt and kill their prey? Well, they have to locate it by vision and hearing, like we mentioned. And then once they're ready to swoop down and grab it with their feet, not their face, because they will reach out with their feet and grab their food, right? They don't want to go face first because that's can be very dangerous for them. They don't have a very big beak, although it's a raptor's beak and it's curved and slightly sharp. It's not as sharp as an eagle or a hawk's beak. So they protect their face. They actually go feet first, like all raptors do, to be honest, and they use their talons. And owls actually have zygodactyl feet, which means they have 2 toes in the front and 2 toes in the back. That actually gives them a stronger grip compared to their size than that of an eagle or hawk. Now, eagles and hawks oftentimes have really big feet, but their feet are what we call anisodactyl, which means they have 3 toes in the front and 1 kind of thumb-like toe in the back for perching and for gripping their prey. These guys have 2 and 2, and so it's a much more even and actually crushing power foot placement that they have, or toe placement. So that is how they would do away with their prey or kill their prey, right? But in the first place, they are silent flyers, or nearly silent. Nothing is truly silent, is it? But they are so quiet when they fly because of their soft, fluffy feathers and their loose feathers on their body, which give them the owly appearance, right? These guys have very, very nearly silent flight, quiet flight, I should say. So these guys can sneak up on their prey since they're not the fastest raptors like falcons and hawks and things like that. Falcons and hawks make noise when they fly, though. When they flap their wings, they're so fast, it doesn't matter if they make noise or not. Falcons are actually the fastest animal on the planet. They go over 200 miles an hour at a dive down. So that's really, really fast. He's not nearly that fast. He's not even close. So he's going to fly from here to there quietly instead, and his prey won't even know that he snuck up on him. Pretty cool. But yeah, that's how much they can lift. These guys can typically up to twice their body weight, maybe a tad bit more. We don't really know. And but they're not going to do that every time, right? Now remember, they don't weigh that much. He only weighs about 4 pounds. Females would weigh about 8 pounds, maybe a little bit more. But it's still very impressive. I can't do that. I certainly can't lift twice my body weight. That would be ridiculous. I'm not going to tell you what that weight is either. You guys are wonderful, by the way. Thank you for participating and asking questions and leaving comments. That is a lot of fun. A lot more fun to be out here with friends. So his head is like a gyroscope. He can keep it on target while his body moves. Yeah, that too. So they can actually kind of move their shoulders around and keep focus on something they're focused on, something they're looking at or listening to, and kind of hold their head still as well. Even while they're on a branch and the branch is moving, they can kind of glide with it, right? That is definitely a good point too. Do owls have predators? Absolutely. Owls do have predators. Most animals have predators of some type. There are only a few animals out there, like the killer whale, elephants, some others that don't have natural predators, although humans do hunt those animals sometimes, right? Unfortunately. But as far as natural predators, yes, the Eurasian eagle owl does have natural predators, but it's pretty rare. These guys are known as one of the top predators in their ecosystem. But remember, they are very widespread. This is the Eurasian eagle owl. They live widespread throughout Europe, Asia, which is huge, and North Africa. So they certainly have some animals that might be able to pick them up and eat them, for sure, right? Mostly it's going to be other raptors because they're able to nimbly hunt them. These guys also eat other raptors, like smaller hawks. They might eat young raptors of any type. They might eat other owls. So the main predator of smaller owls is this guy, larger owls. But also, I mean, a wolverine can eat them if they happen to be on the ground, not paying attention, or they happen to be injured in some way. Certainly an injured animal of any type is vulnerable to predation, predators of any type that are bigger than them, stronger than them. I mean, potentially even like a European polecat could potentially try to eat these guys. That's actually a ferret in the wild. Ferrets are very strong predators. Ferrets can certainly try to eat an owl sometimes, but it's rare that they would get an owl this large. So, but they do have other predators too. Wolverines, I mean, potentially like a lynx or something like that could get them. I would say cats and those guys are probably their top predators for sure. Remember, owls aren't the smartest, so that can definitely happen. And as an animal becomes elderly or, of course, injured, that makes them more vulnerable. Or, of course, a baby owl as well. Baby owls certainly have a lot more predators than adult owls. Can owls swim? I don't believe so. I've never seen a swimming owl. I've seen some cute videos, which I don't condone to replicate at all, where I guess caretakers were putting their owls in a bathtub or a sink situation and they were floating. Owls are not waterproof birds at all. So since their feathers are so fluffy and lightweight and soft, they're not really the most weather or waterproof bird out there in the animal kingdom. And they don't really like to be wet a whole lot unless it's very, very hot. Now, if an owl like this especially is experiencing a very hot summer and he wants to go down to a puddle and bathe like those cute little sparrows that go down to the puddles and bathe sometimes in your neighborhoods and things, and you're outside wherever you live. Little birds bathe all the time, right? And birds of all types like to bathe a little bit, but owls are not the most aquatic and they certainly don't swim. Most birds really don't swim that well. Birds might wade a little bit. Birds might dip a toe every now and then and bathe, of course, in the rain. He might choose to bathe in the rain or a puddle, like I said, but they're not a waterproof bird. And for that reason, most owls of many species prefer to live inside of a tree cavity, maybe a cave. Barn owls often live in abandoned buildings like barns and churches and things like that. And that will help them to get away from the rain and the elements. And most owls like to at least hunker down in between something that'll keep them sheltered from the wind or heavy rain and heavy snow and things like that. But these guys are so big, they oftentimes are found out. Ooh, you. We're talking about you. These guys are found more often out just like in the trees than inside of a hollow tree or anything because they're so large. And they're waiting for their next opportunity to hunt oftentimes. Or just hunkering down for the day and sleeping. But that's a great question. I've never had that question before. I'm trying to think of some of like the frequently asked questions about our animals or owl. We've answered some of them already. How far can they turn their head? Why don't they move their eyes? Do they blink? They certainly do blink, and they even have a third eyelid, like most animals do. Us humans don't have the third eyelid. Primates, I believe in general, do not have that. Correct me if I'm wrong, all you primatologists out there, but I don't think that any primates have a third eyelid or a nictitating membrane. These guys do have a nictitating membrane. They actually have a clear one, and it will help them to clean their eye and everything like that, and helps to protect their eye too. So when most predators will hunt, as they're hunting or grabbing their prey, right, they will shut their eyes. Almost every predator does that to protect their own eyesight because those prey animals might try to fight back. You cannot leave us just yet. We're almost done. You're doing such a good job. He's such a personable owl. Those of you that have met him in person, you will know what kind of personality he has. You're asking about the color of the eye, Nikki. I saw your question, but it kind of went away. I've never heard that before about the color of the eye and what they eat. So I don't know. You have stumped me. Yes. Now you'll hear his vocalization that he's making. Not every owl actually sounds like that. So if you are here in the United States and you hear that noise, you're actually probably hearing a great horned owl, his close or first cousin, which is over here in the Americas, but these guys live across the pond, right? All the way in Europe, Asia, and Africa, but they have a very similar voice. It's a hooting sound. Typically, it's going to be the males kind of looking for love, and then the females might return with another hooting sound as well. I'm still waiting to see if we hear any owls out here that he's been calling, trying so desperately to find that owl wife of yours. Oh my goodness, poor thing. He's fine, I promise. Now you might see how long his legs look now. His legs actually look pretty long when he was adjusting just there. And that's all I think he's doing. I think he's just getting adjusted and getting comfortable, like we all like to do. Let me see. Who else has a question? Oh, here we go. That's a good question. We have an owl statue or model in our barn, on our barn roof. What animal is that supposed to scare away? Good question. Usually it's going to be other birds that are being pesky around your area, but it can also scare away rats and squirrels. Lots of animals fear the owl because it is one of the biggest predators, or main predators, I should say, in the area. So if you put an owl, what do we call it? Decoy or an owl replica, right, out in your tree outside or on top of your roof somewhere, that's going to help you to not have as many pigeons, to not have as many grackles, other small birds that might be like pests to you. I kind of like them all, but it also will help you to have less rats and squirrels. All kinds of animals fear the owl, and rightly so. It is their main predator. Chickens fear the owl as well, although I'm sure you're not trying to deter chickens. But yeah, so that will help you out. It's almost like having like a scarecrow. Scarecrows traditionally scare crows, but that's typically a human replication, right? Or like a statue or a scarecrow full of straw or whatever to kind of scare away those animals you may not want around. So it could be a multitude of prey animals. Even other owls don't like those big owls either. Now, owls end up being one of the best pest control animals you can have, whether it be the fake owl, like you mentioned, or the actual owl. So a really cool thing that you can do in your backyard, perfectly legal to do, is actually build an owl nest box. Some owl nest boxes are tiny, and they will attract screech owls, maybe barn owls, maybe other owls like that. And those type of owls are great at hunting little rodents and also roaches. So did you know that screech owls, the little teeny ones that are much smaller than him, are like this big, so tiny, it would be like a snack for you. Yep. Those guys actually are specialized in eating lizards and roaches and all sorts of big bugs like that. And they might catch little rodents too, but that's their main prey. They have a very fast metabolism, so they need to hunt quite often, and roaches end up being quite numerous in most areas, right? So they can hunt a lot of those, and also other bugs too, like grasshoppers, etc. So those guys are great pest control for my least favorite animal, the cockroach. And that's a great thing to do in your backyard, is actually have natural pest control for screech owls, barn owls, maybe barred owls, some great horned owls. There's all sorts of different sizes of nest boxes that you can actually provide. Provide an owl with a home, provide an owl with a breeding area that they can actually have some babies for you, and that would be really fun to watch. But that's a great form of free and natural pest control. It's really important not to use sticky traps or rat poison, especially outside, because a lot of the animals like this can get stuck in those glue or sticky traps because they're trying to get the prey that's stuck in the sticky trap, or they can become poisoned by rat poison, because of course, what eats the rats? The predators, right? So rats might become poisoned with rat poison and then move a lot slower as they're dying, right? And then these guys say, ooh, a slow rat, that'll be easy for me to catch. And unfortunately, they get poisoned too. So it's really important not to use any of those things, or use them to a minimum, or at the very least, if you're using sticky traps, use them inside and not outside where animals can get stuck in them. Bats get stuck in them, snakes get stuck in them, lizards, all sorts of animals you don't really want to get stuck in them. And that's just a friendly PSA to you guys. There's other ways to have pest control. Using less pesticides is also a great way to keep animals healthy in the environment, or you want to make sure they're not super toxic pesticides as well. But these guys are great for that, and they're wonderful animals. But you have to watch your small dogs and your small cats. Keep your cats inside, because cats can also be an enemy to these guys and a natural predator to some of the smaller owls especially. But some cats might get taken away by a great horned owl. And I've heard of tiny dogs being taken away by a great horned owl as well. Thank you for adjusting. That's a much better position. It's much more comfortable for me. I can rest my arm a little bit better. I think Rango is doing a great job. If you're just joining us, this is Rango, our Eurasian Eagle Owl. He may look like a great horned owl, but he's actually the larger, close cousin across the pond. These guys live in Europe, Asia, a little bit of North Africa, and they are twice as large as the great horned owl. He happens to be a male, so he is smaller than females get. Females can be up to 9 pounds. That's like the record for them. especially with babies inside, right? But typically females weigh about 7 pounds and males weigh anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds. And he's about that. But he's extra large. Good advice. Thank you. Absolutely. Lots of native owls here in San Antonio, Texas, specifically, in Texas in general. We've got barred owls, which is not the barn owl. Barred owls have stripes that we call bars. There's also the barn owl with an N, and those are usually white here in Texas. They usually will hang out inside of hollow trees or barns or churches. Those guys are really, really loud as well. So barn owls are really funny because they make a screeching, screaming sound that sounds like a woman, only like alien. It's really terrifying if you don't know what you're listening to. Those guys are really, really scary sounding, but they're harmless to humans, of course. We've got the great horned owl, we've got screech owl, we've got all kinds of different owls. It's really fun to look up your native wildlife, right? And the best way to identify owls scientifically or just for fun is to listen. So owls are really good at hiding, especially during the day. They almost do nothing all day. They just sleep, right? Because they're nocturnal animals for the most part. There's a few exceptions of owls, but mostly here in Texas, they're going to be nocturnal. And then they're going to go to bed all day. But during the night, you might hear them making noises like that. So they will actually tell you what type of species they are by their voice. Every owl has a different voice. If you hear that hooting sound, you are hearing a great horned owl in our Texas area. But if you hear this sound out in Europe or Asia or Africa, you might be hearing a Eurasian Eagle Owl. All right. Yes, birds do have some cartilage to connect some of their parts for sure. Joyelle is asking. You guys have had fantastic questions, by the way. I'm really happy that you guys were joining us today. Hello again, Instagram. Hello for those of you that are joining us just now. We are probably going to get ready to say goodbye pretty soon. Rango's getting pretty heavy, and he's been doing such a good job that I want to reward him with having a break. So when we train our animals, a lot of times treats and things like that only go so far, or maybe he's not super into treats. Now, Rango will eat treats from my hand, but we don't feed him unlimited treats because he could get too fat too fast. He is weight managed. So a lot of birds, when you see them working in educational programs or birds in general, maybe even your pets at home, maybe your pet parrots and things, weight managed birds do a lot better with their training because they're a little more motivated. So we don't feed him unlimited treats. And sometimes he's so distracted, to be honest with you, when he's working that he doesn't really want to take treats when he's out working. He'd rather just look around and hang out and talk to you than get treats. So his reward might be taking a break or getting to go back home and taking all his equipment off. So shortly we'll be able to do that and give him a reward because he's been doing such a good job. Now remember, this animal is a wild animal. He is not a pet. Now he's what we call an educational animal or an outreach animal. We are a mobile zoo here in South Texas called Once in a Wild. We are based in San Antonio, and we actually have special privileges to have some of these animals that are not pets, but they have a job. So Rango has a job. His job is just to be his beautiful self and hang out calmly for programs in person or virtually like this. He has a pretty good job, and he gets to have quite the lush life in return for all of that. But he's not a pet, so I don't recommend you guys have owls for pets. They are definitely not for everybody. You have to have a lot of experience in taking care of them. They're not the average bird, and even birds in general are kind of hard work. I think the best pet birds are chickens and ducks. We have some ducks here at Once in a Wild as well, as you may know, and those guys are really fun to like pet and hang out with. He's not really what we call a touchy-feely type animal. It's definitely not his love language in general. He's a very good bird, but he's not super cuddly and things like that. So they don't really make good pets. I want to make sure you guys know that. So he is a working bird. He travels with us for educational programs and for people to admire him and learn about him. That is his purpose. Thank you for saying you love Rango. Nikki says, love Rango. He's so cute. Wish I could hug him, but I'm sure he'll bite if I do. Yeah, and these guys don't have very strong bites. But I'm sure he wouldn't appreciate that. He may try to bite you. He may try to scratch you, something like that. So we don't usually give him hugs, but I appreciate the love nonetheless, and I'm sure he does too. Well, you guys have been a fantastic audience. I hope you guys come and visit us again next week. My arm's getting a little bit tired, so we're going to go ahead and close. Owls that weigh 4 pounds are still pretty heavy after some time, and it's in this position the whole time. It's like holding a 4-pound ice cream cone for an hour. So you guys have been fantastic. Oh, you said, Joyelle says, I once saw a big owl. It looked like that, but bigger. Wow. Yeah, sometimes these guys get bigger if they're female. Now, if you saw one here in, I don't know where you live, but here in the United States, it would have been a great horned owl that looks like this. There's also other owls like snowy owls, great gray owls that are similar in size as well. They might be a little bit lighter in weight. but they're similar size. So I'm not sure what species you saw. But this one, if you saw one like this, it would have been a great horned owl. And this is about as big as a great horned owl would get here in the United States. So, but that is pretty cool. I'm glad you guys were joining us today, or did join us today. This is real life, so I might mess up my words a little bit. And thank you for all your questions, comments, and compliments. It's been a lot of fun. So we will be here next week again, next Wednesday, same time, same place, across social media, whichever social media you enjoy the most. We should be on there. And please feel free to share our videos. Please feel free to tell your family and friends all about us. We can come and visit you in person here in the South Texas area, or virtually all over the world. So if you guys are interested in meeting our buddy Rango here in person, that would be fantastic. Or you can have a Zoom with him, a personal private Zoom, or any of our other animals that we offer. We have mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, creepy crawlies, something for everyone. And we can conduct an animal show and tell, or meet and greet, animal therapy, or even a petting zoo for you guys. So we have a little bit of something for everyone. And we would love to meet you in person or in your own private Zoom very, very soon. But if you can't do that, that is okay. One free way to help us out is by following us and subscribing to us on our social media, liking the videos, sharing the videos, commenting like you've been doing tonight. That is fantastic, etc. And if you want to donate to us in another way, we have onceonawall.com/donate. We have Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. We even have an Amazon wish list as well, where you can donate items that are specially selected. And we even have a Patreon now. So you can be a patron over there and support Ringo or any of the other favorite animals that you have. Well, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We'll see you next week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And let's go ahead and play our exiting, our theme song that we play at the end of every live stream. So let's go ahead and do that. We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing. Once in a while. Together. Once in a while. I want to hear you say. Once in a while. And that's the fun for me and you. Okay, everyone, thank you for bearing with me today as I got back in the rhythm of our live stream. Thank you for having patience with us as we've been rerunning the last couple of weeks. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time with some more different animals. And you guys can learn all about them next time. And we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.